Hey guys, welcome to Podcast Fandom, the official podcast for ProjectFandom.com. I'm your host, Nina,
I'm Sarah.
and we are back after you and I have not podcast together in years, right?
Yep.
Jeez.
Right.
And the whole world is different. That's another thing. Like our
Truly.
you know what I mean? It's like it just hit me. Like we were chit-chatting before we went live and we were talking about COVID obviously and how things are different and our vaccine shots and all that good stuff. But like life is like drastically different for both of us since the last time that we spoke. And I know a lot of people it's really easy for me to forget that the people who read Project Fandom or listen to the podcast, they're not just the people in our Facebook group. It's very easy to just kind of live in that space and think that those are the only people listening. And then every now and again, I get on Twitter and people who are not on Facebook, who maybe don't follow, or maybe even not even premium subscribers, are just like, "Where are you guys? And what are you doing?" And so um,
Right.
Project Fandom is still there. Trust me, I'm still paying for it every month. I really need to figure something out about that. But it's still there. It's just I've gone back to school, as most of you already know from the few podcasts we've done off and on over the past year and a half or so. And so I've been super busy with that. We're still podcasting over on Patreon, the premium show. But we have been talking recently about talking about new shows and putting them back on iTunes and Stitcher and other places for free. And no offense to John and Donnie, but I was also been saying if you guys are premium subscribers, you've heard me say this. I want new shows that I know nothing about. I miss that. I miss diving into something new and unexpected. So that's why I'm really loving this and like the Nevers. And I want to talk to new people. And I know John and
Right.
Donnie were like, huh. And I was like, I need to get Sarah on a podcast. And so honestly, when I saw the trailer for the Nevers, I wanted to approach you about that because I thought I think
Mhm.
Sarah might dig that. Even also the irregulars, and I'm so glad I didn't approach you for the irregulars because, um, yeah. But anyway, that more on that in a second. But I saw this and I was like, oh, this is perfect. And I don't know to this day if I offended John and Donnie, but I was just dead ass. I was like, oh, that's me and Sarah. Like before I even asked you, I was like, that's for me and Sarah. Y'all hands off that show. So I
They can
like
handle
even
it.
now
It's
I don't
fine.
even know what their thoughts are on the show because I never asked. I was just like I'm talking about it with Sarah.
They're not watching it. That's fine.
So but yeah, so here we are. So but wait, first quickly I have to ask you, are you watching the Nevers or the Irregulars?
I'm not watching the irregulars yet. And I am watching the Nevers, but I missed this week. I
Mm,
completely forgot about it. Just time slid
yeah,
by,
yeah.
but I'm gonna catch up.
So I've only seen the first episode of The Nevers, and Donnie and I recorded for that last night, and that podcast just went up. And then we're going to talk about episodes 2 and 3, I think, on Saturday, and then I think we're caught up. I think it's only been 3 episodes, but
Yeah.
the irregulars, we actually did a podcast for like 2 of the episodes. It's okay, but it's not. I don't think podcast worthy. Like
Hmm.
but I think you would enjoy. It's like John made the comparison, and I agree. Excuse me, the Irregulars. It's on Netflix. It's kind of like Doctor Who meets Sherlock, and
Okay.
it's like Sherlock based. Like Sherlock and Watson are in it, but it's like
Oh, okay. That
the the
show.
Homeless
Yes.
Network,
I
or is that
watched the first episode.
okay? Yeah,
Hmm.
that's the Irregulars, and it
Hmm.
feels like it's kind of like there's supernatural stuff, and it's like case of the week type stuff. So in that way, it feels very Doctor Who, But yeah, but it's not something that we were enjoying talking about. And then this came along, and I didn't even finish the entire trailer the first time I saw this. I was just like, again, because I don't know, maybe it's COVID, but I've been saying this for months on the premium podcast that I think my patience for just bullshit is just completely shot, you know, like, so when I'm, if the time that I have to invest in a TV show, I want it to be good. I want it to be different. I want to like it like right away. You know, I want to, you know, have something,
Right.
you know, it's just been a while since we've had that. So I stopped watching this trailer. I didn't even finish the whole thing because I was like, I've seen enough to know I want to watch it. And I just finished the second episode like a bit ago. So you and I are going to be talking about this series, Shadow and Bone. It's a Netflix original series. I think it's only 8 episodes. All episodes are currently available on Netflix, but we're going to be talking about them 2 episodes at a time each week. So today we're going to be talking about episodes 1 and 2. And as we typically do, I'm going to give you an opportunity, Sarah, to just give your overall thoughts on where you are with Shadow and Bone. And also, not too much pressure. Any background information you have on this, because I don't know shit. Are they books? Like, I don't know.
Yes.
Okay, so they are books. Go for it.
Right. Yeah. So Shadow and Bone is a trilogy, and that's the initial story of Alina. Well, mainly Alina, but Alina and Mal.
Okay,
And so that whole side of the story is the trilogy.
got it.
And then after the trilogy, the author wrote the Six of Crows duology. And so the other guys, Kaz and, the rest of the gang,
Right. Okay.
those guys are from Six of Crows. So she brought them together in the series as a kind of a prequel. They kind of invented a prequel for the Crows in order to,
Include them in
punch up
this.
the action. Yeah.
Okay, I see that. Okay, because I thought the one thing that got me watching the first episode, and I don't know if it was like on purpose. It could have just been a thing of me not paying attention well enough, but like I didn't get that the events happening with Kaz in them, that was technically before the events at the end. I mean, I'm sorry, after the events at the end of the episode, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh, okay, now I see how this ties together. Um so what have you thought so far before we dive into the specifics? How are you have you read the books?
I have.
Okay.
I've read the trilogy and I'm halfway through Six of Crows.
Okay.
And I thought that they did a great job adapting the vibe of the books.
Mm.
So, obviously they have streamlined a lot of the details
Mhm.
and, cut out some people and, some dead weight and stuff like
Right.
that. But it is a pretty tight story because it's primarily focused on Alina's point of view,
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's not too much world building, beyond her immediate point of view that they can do. And I mean, they do some others, bring in a few other people point of view, but I think that they did a great job capturing the vibe and also kind of correcting some maybe problems that would cause it not to appeal,
Ah.
to certain, because first of all, it is a YA series,
Right.
so it's not going to get too adult.
Right.
But, there are some issues that we eventually kind of cross into as far as consent and things like that,
Mm. Okay.
with the Darkling. And I think that they really helped themselves in setting it up in this way.
Mm.
And also by bringing in, Alina and Mal, allowing them to be non-white characters.
Right. Right.
The books are set in a like a Russian, essentially.
Great.
Um,
I was going to ask that.
yeah, yes,
Because so the geography of this, like from what I can gather, and I know people are listening right now expecting us to explain stuff because I've seen it. I've seen the messages in the feedback. I've seen the posts in the group on Twitter, people saying, "I'm so happy you guys are going to be talking about this because I don't understand what I just watched." And Donnie has watched
right.
3 episodes, and he's like, "I had to stop because I need you and Sarah to explain it to me." But what I feel like is that I thought. Now, I will say I came out of these 2 episodes like, I don't know what people are so confused about. Like, I feel like I pretty much
Hmm.
understand what's going on, but I do think that there's the terminology like of certain things that don't really, like exist. So I think it can
Hmm.
like squallers and tide makers and all that stuff. Like I can see where people like
Sure.
might not pick up on that and the money and the all that. But so the geography of this is where like we're not supposed to look at this as Earth, right? Is this like how like Game of Thrones was like we could we could make real world comparisons, but it was always Westeros and all these made up places. This is supposed to be just like a made up place, correct?
Right.
And then,
Right.
but
It's got
geographically,
Russian vibes, but
yes.
it's a fictional
Okay.
continent.
Because I was going to say, is it just me or like, and that's not honestly, it's not something I picked up on until the second time I watched the first episode. Like the first time I was just kind of like taking quick notes and just, absorbing it and watching it. And then I watched the second time to take like better notes and ask questions. And I started taking notes of like the last names. And I was like, they're all Russian. But okay, but so I have another question. But first, so there's this country, and is it Ravka? Is that the name of the country?
Right.
Okay,
Hmm.
and it is separated basically down the middle by this thing called the fold. And it looks like
Right.
if you look at the map, it looks like a literal tear. Or remember the tear in what's it called? The tear, the rip in Doctor Who in the wall
Hmm.
with Amy. So it looks like on the map, it looks like somebody just like tore through the middle of this region on a map. But like in person, it's like this swirling cloud of like thunder and lightning and fog and terribleness. It is like
Right.
a literal wall of fog that, if people try to cross to go from East Ravka to West Ravka, you might not survive. Most don't, apparently, right? Because of
Yes.
what's in it, right? Okay.
Hmm.
And when asked, like, why don't people just try to go around, I believe, hold on, now I need to pull up my notes. The reply was, when she was a girl, when Alina is a girl, she asked the woman who I guess runs the orphanage where she was living with Mal. She says, the North wants our Grisha dead, and the South protects the mountains. So I was like, okay, so there's some war and fighting going on that prevents safe travel around the fold, and going through
Right.
the fold is just suicide, basically.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
And so, uh, the Grisha,
And that's
go ahead.
that's why they're all like the army is all mobilized and everything is
Right.
because of the border wars. So they're constantly in this border war on either side, and they're landlocked away from the ocean, the like the true sea, which
Right.
is on the other side of the fold. So they're just starving out, and they have to keep. That's what's driving them to keep going through the fold.
And are we talking about the people on which side? The people on the east or the west? Or both?
Um, Ra-
Well,
Ravka, yeah, they're at war. On They're kind of like at a standoff with Fierda, which is on the north, and then there's a bigger border war on the south,
okay.
with Shuhan, which is
Got it.
the border where Alina and Mal are from.
Okay. Thank you. That's what I have Shuhan written here. Okay. So the
Hmm.
people up north are the people who attacked. Is that the people who attacked when he was taking her to the palace? The people who came out and
Yes,
called her a witch, they
right.
begin with an F, right? Okay. And then the
Yep.
people of the south that they're fighting, the Shuhan, are those the people who her mother is, because she's half something?
Right. Right.
Okay.
They're half shoe.
Okay. Are they Asian? Because
Yes,
I
they
don't
are.
like that. I don't like, because let me tell you something. While I'm watching, so here's what I have in my notes. All right. So I have the fold, which I think we just kind of covered, right? And then I have
Hmm.
Alina and Mal both lost parents to the fold. Alina is now a cartographer and Mal is a brawler. And I put that in question mark because I didn't know that he was in the military. Like, because when we meet him,
Yes.
he's like fight clubbing it up somewhere, and he gets
Right.
challenged by somebody who is that like someone who can control, like a Grisha who can control the air or wind or something.
Right. He's one of the
Okay.
squallers.
Okay, oh, that's okay, that makes sense.
Hmm.
So, and they're from Karam Karamazin? Karamzin? Am I saying that right?
Karamzin is
Okay.
the orphanage. Yeah.
The orphanage. Okay, got it. All right. So then I put Grisha. Are they witches? Fire specific slash element specific? And then we see a ship that it turns out that's the ship that's next going to like lead them through the fold, and it's called the Ultralight, I think, and it's a Grisha ship.
Yeah.
Okay. Then
Right.
I put wait, is the enemy Asian? because
Well,
they were
one of them, yes.
because she was like, when you look like the enemy. My mother was half the enemy, and so when you look like the enemy, and she's narrating this, and I'm like, oh, so they treat her bad because she half something, and it didn't even click. But
Mhm.
then when they were in their like meeting or whatever, and the I don't remember his title. But he's the one that he has like a great thing at the end of episode 2. But he stands up and he's like giving them their orders and stuff. And he refers to like a sign, and on the sign it looks like a drawing of an Asian person, but like derogatory. And I was
Yeah.
like, and then she looked
Mm.
uncomfortable and looked away, and then I looked around and I was like, I didn't see anybody else that looked Asian. And I was
Right.
like, they better not. And then, so when I wrote shoe, I was like, this sounds real
Hmm.
racist. So in
Yeah.
the book, so like, because like in like Game of Thrones, again, Game of Thrones did this, right? Where you had the Dothraki who were brown and savages, and
Hmm.
like, and then I don't know if you remember, but I will always remember, because I knew nothing about Game of Thrones when I watched it. Like all I know is that they were books, and that the most recent book had like recently come out when the first series was on, and I watched that first episode, and I remember seeing the Dothraki, and I was like, this looks real racist. I don't like this. But then I noticed as it went on, they were still brown folk, but they got real lighter. Like I feel like they took
Yeah.
that criticism and they were like, "This is not a good look." But you know how, and then like the Dothraki, and not just the Dothraki. I'm sorry, the Unsullied, like they were like brown Mediterranean boys. Like they looked,
Hmm.
and and even Avatar, The Last Airbender, like they were based on actual regions of people. So this is really feeling like they got problem with them Asians down south, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
Oh, I was hoping they didn't go there, but I mean, and
Right.
I guess, okay, all right.
Yeah. I think they're, you know, I agree with you. They're
Yeah, I mean,
using,
this
they
I don't know
they
what to
they
say. Like,
made
I
a
get why they're doing it,
right.
but you got to be really careful.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I completely agree. And I don't know if they're a little maybe looser with it because these people are not real and they're like Russian, so
Mhm,
it's still
mhm.
okay to bag on the Russians or what. But yeah, like in the books, Alina and Mal are just Russian-ish
Okay, that's
white
what I was
people.
gonna ask.
And
Like in the books, what?
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
right. And, I think it helps solve one of the main problems in YA literature today, which is where the protagonist is always a skinny
Mhm.
teenage girl who, like, her problem is that she's too skinny,
Yeah, yeah.
and that, like, when she finally learns to use her powers, suddenly she blossoms into a gorgeous woman,
Mhm.
and like it was always in you, your inner, thought or whatever it was comes to the forefront. So this kind of solves that problem that she, is just kind of
Mhm.
like a too perfect white girl in waiting.
Right.
But yeah.
But yeah. Okay. So then we have I didn't realize that we're going in to actually start talking about it now, and I'm assuming
Sure.
then like our likes and dislikes and all that stuff will come out, but you feel
Hmm.
free to stop me too because I'm sure you have notes. So my stuff is pretty much chronological, so if it feels like I've skipped past something that you want to talk about, cut me off. Absolutely.
Did you want me to like quickly cover the Grisha orders? Would that
Yes,
be
do that.
helpful?
Yes, let's do that because I actually that's the type of stuff. See, my notes are like as I like figured stuff out, like so I may have a
Right.
question like at the start of episode 1 and then later I'm like, "Oh, his name is this." So
Right.
like for half my notes, I'm calling him the guy with the hat, and then later I'm like, oh, his name is
Hat
Jesper.
guy. Red Jesper.
So go ahead. Yes, go ahead. That'll be helpful.
Okay, all right. So the idea behind the Grisha is that they don't regard their powers as magic. They call it the small science. So it's people that are born with an affinity for um, certain substances.
Got it.
So, like living in the world, they're able to kind of call material to them and create something from these substances. It's like a magnetism.
Got it. Okay.
So, there's the corporalki, and they are in the red, and they deal with the body. So that's like the
Okay.
heart renders.
That so those are the guys that were transporting her. The
Right,
guys in the red coats, and then they
exactly.
were doing. It looked like they were doing. Did you watch Avatar:
Only,
The Last Airbender?
peripherally. I know what
Okay.
you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, like so, like I think they eventually learned that people who can bend water, they could potentially bend other liquids like blood, and blood
Right.
bending is like taboo and no because you can control people. Okay, so they're called
Yes.
the corporal what? What are they called?
Corporalki.
Corporal. Oh, I did think I tried to
Yeah.
write that word down and totally fucked it up. Okay, so go ahead.
It's
So
like corporal body,
right, got it.
So they're the heart renders, healers, and tailors. And that's Jenya who like fixed up her face, but she's kind of like pretty rare. And then we have the etherealki, and they're the ones in the blue.
Hmm.
So they manipulate natural elements. So you have the squallers, and they can control air,
Right.
the inferni, which control fire,
Fire.
and the tide makers that control water.
Got it. Tide maker. Go ahead.
And to some degree, the tide makers can affect the human body because of the water.
Right.
And then we have the materialky, which we haven't gotten into that much in the first two episodes that we'll meet later, that wear purple. And they are the fabricators who can manipulate materials like steel and glass. So we have durasts who handle solid materials, and alchemy who handle the chemicals. So
Ah.
those are all like the basic guys. And then you have somebody like General Kerrigan. He and, as we find out, Alina are summoners.
And those are
Technically,
the
they're
ones that can do. He said something like it's called the cut,
right.
and that only
Yeah, you
summoners
have
can
to
do
be
that.
like an extremely powerful
Got it.
person to do that.
Okay.
And so there's only like one of each, that exist in the balance.
Okay.
And the danger is that because they're so powerful, they can cross beyond the small science into Murzost, which is like abomination magic.
Ah.
And so that's the danger that exists out there, and that's why the fold exists.
Okay. 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 Because later one of them says like um it's the Grisha who created it. So it sounds like what they're saying is someone who crossed over into whatever this dark magic is, the abomination type stuff. That is why they have the fold. Whether it was on
Right.
purpose
Yes.
or accident, we don't know. But
Yeah.
that is,
The
or do we know?
Yeah, the people that practice the small science,
Hmm.
they kind of exist in balance with nature, so they can, live healthy and
Hmm.
long lives and whatever. But when you use Merzost, it costs something, and it's easily um, you lose control of it,
Got it.
because it does what it wants.
Hmm.
So that's,
Kind of like dark
essentially
magic,
what they
chaos magic, all
right.
that. Okay, gotcha.
Exactly. Hmm.
So, Ketterdam is on the island of Kurth. That's how I have that written. I hope that's right. And that's where Kaz is, right? Kaz and
Right. They're
Inez.
on Kirch.
Kirch.
Hmm.
Kirch. Okay, thank you, because I wrote Kurth. And um, so Kaz is like a what is he? Like he owns some sort of like casino bar club place, right?
Hmm.
And he
Right.
has Jesper who works for him and Inez who's like an indentured servant that he bought like her contract, and he's like she's basically like his latest iPhone. He still has 5 more payments before he can get the new model. Apparently.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And they hear about a job uh possibly worth 1 million Krug, which I'm guessing is their currency. But it
Hmm.
involves going through the fold, right?
Hmm.
Um and so this is of obviously because of the money or whatever of interest to Kaz.
Right.
Then with Alina and Mal, so they grew up together like in this orphanage. We find out more later. Like they were never tested because they would hide when they would come to test the kids to see if they were Grisha. So that's one thing we know about them. We know that they both lost their parents to the fold, but I don't think they said how or why, right? Like were
Right.
they like military? Were they, I don't think that they mention why. And then we see the discrimination that she faces, even though she's a member of the the military, right? She's a cartographer within the
Right.
military. When they realize that she's half Shu, one of the guys serving the food refuses to serve her or makes her wants to go to like the back of the line. And Mal sees this and he ends up like sneaking into her Grisha tent to steal some grapes for her, and he meets
Right.
Zoya, who's a squaller. And now I know what a
Hmm.
squaller is. Haha. See, I just wrote in my notes, Zoya is a squaller. And then I put
Right.
Mal steals podo. Podo is grapes in Korean. So I try to write words in my notes when I know it in Korean to help. And we learned that through their assignments, Mal is going to be going through the fold on an assignment on that ship that they were talking about
Hmm.
earlier, right? The ultralight, and she doesn't. Alina doesn't want him to go. Okay,
Right.
what is Mal supposed to be? Like she's clearly Asian, right?
Yeah. He's also, she's, they're both,
Well, the
um,
actor, I mean, is he also
right.
okay?
He is, part Indian, I think.
Ah, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I
It
could
didn't
look
have
into.
anything for his father.
Got it. I could tell like they were not Caucasian, but I
Right.
wasn't sure exactly what just within the in real life what this actor was. Okay,
Hmm.
um, so then back with Kaz, Jesper, and Inez. Um,
Hmm.
we learned that. So what let me see if I can explain this. So there's this man named what was his name? D something. Deacon D.
Dreesen.
Dreesen. Okay, so Dreesen has a person, and he needs a heart renderer. Is that what they're called? That's
Hmm.
one of the
Heart render.
corporate.
Hmm.
The okay, Grisha, right? That's connected to body. So he wants someone to bring in one of those, and we learned that you use them when people like aren't talking. Like you're trying to get information out of somebody, and for whatever reason, they're not talking. So Inez and or Kaz gets it into his head that they have to be the first one to bring this man, Dreesen, the heart renderer, to get this information, and then he'll give them the job of going through the fold for the million Krug. So even though Cass doesn't know how to survive going through the fold,
Right.
he wants the well. It on the surface, it sounds like he wants it for the money, but that
Yeah.
can't be it, right? That can't just be it. I mean, I know
Well,
you know stuff, but
yeah. I mean, that's a big part of it. He's kind of like trying to build his mob
okay.
empire.
Because
Yeah.
like so but like by the end of it though, he's willing to put up the club and you get that like part of that's like for her though, right?
Yeah.
Inez, right? Because
Right.
he cares about her. And
Right.
so it just feels like okay, but then why are you I guess like on the surface it feels like that's what they're saying, that it's the money and that he does want to like because at one point somebody even says to him like you'll never be able to compete with Pekka. Is that his name?
Hmm.
Pekka, yeah,
Hmm.
Pekka Rollins. So, I mean, I
Right.
guess, but right as right now, not having read the books or anything, I feel like it feels like it should be more to it because he's risking a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they don't cover it quite, but I think in these two episodes, Inej um, picks up that, and that's one thing that they're great about in their group, whether it's in the book or, in the series, is
Mm.
that they are very attuned to each member of the club, of the,
Yes.
not of the club, of the gang.
Yeah, Jesper
So,
and these three. Yes.
right. So they've got a great working relationship, and she feels that there's more to his obsession.
Hmm.
It really is an obsession with beating Pekka Rollins.
Got it.
So there's a meaning behind, why
More of
he's
that.
after Pekka.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. Yes. Thank you. Because I don't even know if I wrote that down. That's that. Okay. Now I feel it. Now, see, I was like,
Yeah.
it had to be more than just the money. I forgot
Right.
that when Pekka threatens him and he's like, have we ever made a deal before? And he's like, no, or you'd be dead already. And then later he says to someone, did he recognize you? And he goes, no, because I'd be
There
dead
you
if he
go.
did. And I was like,
Right.
okay, there we go. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Now that I will buy. There's some other shit going on. Okay.
Yes.
So so Pekka goes and he threatens the guy who owns, if you will, the Heartrender, right? And
Right.
he like
Hmm.
basically kills him and takes over his clubs. So, but she's already gone. Kaz already got to her, and
Yeah.
they take her to Dresden, and um there's that. I'm sorry. I'm reading from my notes, so sometimes like it may like I won't finish talking about a scene because something else
Right.
happens. But I see that he ends up taking the orchid from that man. Like he kills him and takes the guy's club, but she's already gone.
Hmm. Hmm.
General Kerrigan arrives, and I just have that in my notes because I didn't know who the fuck that was, and they didn't show him. Like you just saw, if I'm not mistaken,
Right.
like
Yeah.
his cape or some shit like that. And I was like, that looks like Ben Barnes. Like,
Yeah.
is that Ben Barnes?
And
But
that's a big scene in the books
oh, is it?
when his carriage comes in, and it's just like this, you just picture this mammoth. She says it's like 6 times larger than any other carriage.
Wow.
He's got all these black horses, so he's like the Undertaker,
Yeah.
coming in.
Okay. Okay. Um. So Alina, I did not know what that girl was doing at first. When she finds out that Mal is going, she runs to the map tent, I guess,
Yeah.
and she's like rummaging through these maps, and like they had already said, like we head out in like 20 minutes, like hurry up. So I'm like, what the fuck is she doing? And she's going through the maps, and like she took some, right? Is that
Hmm.
like she took some and then she took others out and she burned them? And she
Yeah.
did it on purpose because those there were like important enough that they would need to draw those maps again, right? But like
Right.
they didn't, it wasn't like a full blown like shut everything down, we must find who did this, because she was like we're very careful with the candles or whatever. So Alina volunteers to go. She purposely chose maps that would make it so that it would make sense for cartographers to have to go on this mission with Mal and them to redraw these maps. Is
Hmm.
that it? Okay.
Right. That's a big change from the books too,
Mm.
because in the books they are all supposed to go because they're still mapping the fold and mapping on the other side of it.
Okay.
So they want as many eyes as possible. So she's paired up with, Mal's group. They're a little
So
more.
making this change though, then it really does like because at the end of it, you this is her fault. It's
It
like
is. You're
right
right. Yeah.
because I thought back on it. So what ends up happening is one of the guys lights a lantern. Even after that, wouldn't it be a man? Just after that woman said, "Don't
Oh,
light no
of
other
course.
light
Right. She
because
said, "Don't do it."
don't do it because that will fuck us all up." And he fucking lights it. Nothing even that scary had happened for him to do all of that either. Like
Uh,
all the scary shit happened after he lit it. But that is somebody now, if I'm not mistaken, that's somebody who wouldn't have been there if not for her, right? Because
I
when
think so.
because when she
Yeah.
was like, "I'll go," and then he was like, "You'll all go."
Hmm.
It's like, girl, you don't put other
Right.
people. It's one thing to assume that risk for yourself, but like to
Yeah.
assume it for all these other people. And I was thinking back on it, I'm like, I assume that if they weren't there, they would have just made it across.
Probably. Yeah.
Anyway,
Because, you know, right. Like the Volcro were definitely after them, but they wouldn't have seen the ship as clearly
as they
without
did,
the thing
right?
being lit.
This motherfucker. So Wait on a second. Why do I have? Oh, because I didn't finish. I just have in my notes. Alina is took, and I put took in big letters. Because so the attack happens. And this was some gory shit. Like
Yeah,
it's pretty. This was.
it's nasty.
Yeah, and I have to say, when she finally sat her ass down, I was like, took you long enough, because
Right?
didn't she say like cartographers stay in your stations? So I'm like, okay, cool, but then like just like the creaky noises and the howling and the wings flapping and all this shit, and I'm like, can I sit? Because I want to sit. Like I would have been sitting in a little ball trying to make myself as small as possible.
Right. I would have been like plastered up against one of those walls.
Right? And they're like, she's looking over the fucking edge of the shit, looking
She's
around. I'm
wandering
like,
around.
right?
Oh,
It's
what
like,
is that?
and then, yeah, and then at
No.
one point, Mal like walks over to her and says something. I'm like, why are y'all talking? This was
Jesus.
terrifying to me. And I will say, we haven't talked about it too much. The fold. This shit is terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, this is, as someone who has a phobia about big open spaces, I've talked about this on a podcast before. Like, I enjoy the beach in theory, like the idea of the beach and like fruity drinks, chilling out with a
Hmm.
book on the sand. But in reality, that the looking out into that much open space and sky freaks me the fuck out. I don't like it.
Hmm.
I don't like being in big
Yeah.
open like football fields. Like I don't like a lot of big open space around me. So that watching them like approach that, I'm like, there's no fucking way I would go in there. None.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I have a
It's
question
terrifying.
too. It's
Hmm.
not, is it, it's not water, is
Right.
it? Because I was a little confused because for some reason, I think when I was looking at the map, I thought it was like like a natural water divide between this land and then this fold was like over it. So it made traversing the water dangerous. But then when they show that guy running out of it, like it's like
Hmm.
he was running, and I'm like, but how did he get off the boat? What did he swim? Like, so I'm now, and
Right.
this is not in my notes. It's land, no, or is it
Yeah,
water?
it's just land. The fold opened over land, and then it's full of like, essentially it's like shadows, but if they had substance. So
Right. Okay.
everything underneath the shadow, underneath the fold is just dead. And they said that the reason that they don't take like wheeled vehicles over
Mm,
it,
mm,
like a horse cart or whatever, is it makes too much noise for the Volcra,
okay.
and it attracts them. So they have developed these skiffs where they just try and like blow as quickly as possible over the sand and get to the other side.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
That helps. Um.
Yeah.
So then on the other side, like where they were oh wait, so let's talk about that. So like when again, not having read the book, so I didn't know what to expect, and like when he is gripped up by one, when Mal is picked up, and I could like I
Mhm.
heard the sound effects, so I felt like it was doing more than just holding him, like in its talons or whatever. Like I don't know if it stabbed him somewhere, but I thought like something happened to him, and then he takes out his knife. Like there was like this is totally set up as a death scene, right? Like she's gonna watch this guy get
Yeah.
snatched away or die, and at first I thought, oh, it's gonna snatch him away, but later we're gonna find out like he's still alive or something, right? Because I just couldn't see this
Yeah.
relationship like ending. Like they're really kind of setting this up like it means something. So I'm like, all right, but then
Right.
when she's like over him and it looks like he's gonna die and he's like, I'll see you in the meadow, and I'm like, holy shit, they're really killing him. The moment I said that to myself, I was like, no, it's gonna be her. And then that fucking thing came up
Hmm.
behind her and I was like, it's gonna take her. I'm told, and I really thought we were gonna like see what's in the fold through her because she was taken in there, if that makes sense. Like I didn't
Hmm.
see
Hmm.
her fucking turning into the sun. Didn't see that coming.
Right.
Oh my god, that was so fucking good. Did that look good to you? Like having read the book. So in the book, is that how it's revealed that that's what she is when they go in there?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
that he's attacked. I think the gore is much worse in the book, and I think it was fine at this level. Like
Mm,
you don't really need to go any further than that. You can get the picture that these beasts are, these abominations, and they've got these massive talons, and
Mm-hmm.
they are like ripping into you the second that they grab on, and they like draw and quarter this one guy. Like the first guy that gets taken, they just gut him. So it's horrible. And so they grab onto Mal, and then they he I think she stabs it and
Mm.
gets it to drop him, and then like as she's leaning over him, it grabs her, and
Yeah.
she just lights up. I thought that, yeah, I mean, I guess how else could it look?
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
thought it was a little weird to have like her face kind of like glowy,
Mm.
but what I loved was the effect from the outside of the
Yes.
fold,
Mm-hmm.
where you see it just kind of like knife out of there, and that
Mm-hmm.
was well done.
Yeah,
I
I like
like
that
that
as
a lot.
well. I like that. Um, and so it's when Kaz takes the Heartrender that he got first to Dreesen,
Hmm.
and we see that it is um the one who came out, and I have here in my notes Novak Roborsk. I don't know what that is. I know it's a place, but that's like the other side because they were waiting for them, and they're like they should have been here 2 hours ago. So I think at this point they
Right.
were thinking, oh, they're dead. Like and they turn to go, and someone comes running out. Right? Is this the guy that
Yeah.
Dreesen later has? The guy that
Yes.
okay,
Yeah. They're trying to get across the fold to Novokrobisk, which is the little kingdom on the other side there, or it's like a port area, and the
okay,
guy there like wants to be independent, so that's why he's being the way he is.
okay.
And Alexei is the cartographer that jumped off the skiff and ran out of the. I guess it was
Ah,
like the force pushed him out of the rift.
okay, got it, got
So
it.
yeah.
So, he now why was he talk? He was not talking out of fear, right? Because at first I thought what happened because it was magical, like he forgot it,
Hmm.
and so she was there to draw it out. But it was just fear, right? Because
Yeah, he was just
concentrating on
traumatized.
his
Yeah.
heartbeat and stuff. Okay, and so
Hmm.
he eventually says that what happened, and he explains what we just saw, which is that a sun summoner took care of the what are those creatures called again?
The um the Volcra.
Volcra. Um, and then he's like, "What's her name?" And he was like, "If I tell you, you'll set me free." And I was like, "Bad words. Those
Oh
are
no,
shitty
right.
choice of words,
You have
dude."
to specify.
You got to be like, "You ain't gonna kill me and let me live and let me leave here safely tonight, maybe with some food and taxi money,
Forever to a
please, and I
long
will
life.
never see
Yeah.
anybody or ever again."
But
Um,
I will also keep my tongue. You got to
right,
specify
right. I
that
also want
too.
to keep my tongue and my fingers. Jesus. But he was like, "Yeah, I'll set you free." And then he tells that it's Alina Starkov, I think her name is Starkov. And
Hmm.
and he blows him up. He
Yeah.
shoots him in the head. And he says, "Now, we are the only people who know this information." And he gives Cass till sunrise to come up with a way through the fold, or else he'll give the job to Pekka. Now, how does Pekka know how to get through the fold? I'm just well, because it sounds like clearly it's possible, obviously, and there are
Right.
ways to like smuggle. And people have figured some stuff out clearly, but I'm assuming that if Pekka even thinks that he can do this for a million, like, or is he like Kaz, where he's like, I just want the job and I'll figure it out later, or do we know if Pekka can get through the fold?
I think that the gist is that because Pekka is such a man of means, that he could, put
Mm,
a spy or somebody on basically any skiff, and
got
just
it,
pay his way across,
got it.
So.
So, and then did Alina blow up? Because I didn't know what had happened, but no, she's a summoner. That's what I have in my notes. um, all right. So before we talk about the events of episode 2, anything else in episode 1? I did think of one thing I wanted to mention, but do you have anything?
Let's see. I would say so Mel's buddies, I thought their little comedy crew was really cute.
You mean
Mikhail and Dubrov.
you mean Sam and Pip and
Yeah,
Dolores Ed.
exactly. Sam and Pip, right? Yeah.
Especially in the next episode when he's like, I'm gonna go after her. And they're like, boy, you need to keep your ass here. I was like, that is just like when John thought he was gonna go help Rob
Exactly.
after their dad was killed. He's like, I'm gonna go. And they're like, you took an oath. They'll fucking kill you. You need to stay your ass right here at the wall. um, but yeah, I like them.
Yes.
Yeah, I like them.
Yeah. They were really cute. And let's see, what else did I have? One thing about the crows that it's important to keep in mind
Mm.
is that they're all supposed to be teenagers.
Yeah, that
So,
was another thing I was gonna ask. Like,
yeah,
how old are the three of them supposed to be? Because they don't look like teenagers.
right. They're all supposed to be like 17. So,
All right. So I have a
yeah.
question though. So do you remember when Mal was saying goodbye to her and he walks away and then the guy behind her, I'm guessing is another cartographer, he's like, I'll still be here. And she doesn't pay him any mind. That's not the guy. That's not
That's
Alexi.
Alexi.
It is
Yeah.
poor Alexi, my God. He had the worst first episode. Can we agree that he
Yeah.
got
He had a
curved
rough
so
time.
hard? He got a rough fucking episode. So I was thinking, and when I watched it that first time, then going through the second time with notes, knowing what's going to happen, it was towards the end where I was like, wait a minute. Is the guy she just curved the guy that ends up getting killed in the end?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God.
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing I was going
Yeah.
to ask, this was a little confusing, like, especially going into the second episode. When she gets on ultralight and they start to enter the full, and the wind blows her scarf off, it blows
Yeah.
backwards. That's Kerrigan, right? Standing on the docks
Yes.
or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and they showed it from the back, and I was like, that ain't nobody but Ben Barnes. Just,
It's definitely him.
I
Yeah.
was like, that's Logan. I know me some Westworld Logan when I see him. But her scarf blew back, and then so when they're rescued at the end, are they're not across, right? Because I was so confused because
Right.
of where they are. Because ugh, I know I'm jumping ahead, but when they're rescued and we see Zoya and them carry the
Yeah.
bodies off, right, and she gets healed and all of that, and then they take her to him. That's
Right.
that. It went. They went back, right?
Yeah, they just turned around and went back.
Okay, got it. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah. I'd be like, you know what? I don't want to
exactly.
do that anymore. I'd be like,
No,
yeah, I'm done going through the
they
full
were not
things.
that far in. There's, I think they say later on that, I mean, the fold is quite substantial. It goes
Hmm.
on for miles and miles. So they were only two markers in, and
Oh,
there were
that's right.
37 more.
That's right. Because
So,
she's like second marker, and she's like, how many are there? She said 37 more.
right.
It's like, are we
It's
there
like,
yet?
what?
Are we there yet? We just left. Stop asking.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So episode 2 is We're All Someone's Monster. And I don't think I said the name of the first episode, but that one was a searing burst of light, which we know
Mhm.
now what that means. Um, so with episode 2, um, see, I have this in my notes. So the test for the Grecias, it's like this is like a flashback to when they're in the orphanage, and it's like this older kid scaring the other kids because apparently they're coming to be tested that day about what the
Mhm.
test is like, and that's where I started. I was like, okay, because one was saying I want to be a squaller, and he says something kind of derogatory about like controlling the wind, and then and Fernie, is that what they're called? Those are
Mhm.
the fire ones, and then Tidemaker water. Okay, that's what I got just from that conversation. So thank you for
Yeah.
the other info. And then Mal and Alina end up hiding they don't want to take the test. She doesn't want to know. And later she describes the decision to do that as it was already hard enough being different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I think, they're alluding to the idea. I don't think that it's too much to say that she sensed,
Yeah, that's
like
what it kind
deep
of felt
down she
like.
knew.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it kind of felt like.
Hmm.
And so, and it's weird though, because then how often were they tested? Like, how could you keep getting away with not being tested? Like, at some point, you would think the woman in the orphanage would be like, I don't know if she Grisha or not, because every time y'all come take this test, she disappears.
Well, eventually. they get busted.
Oh,
It's annually.
mm,
Yeah.
okay. So, oh, and then
But once they test you, then they don't bother you anymore.
yeah, yeah,
So.
yeah, true. So then when Inez is upset because that is her name, right? Inez. How do you say her name?
Inej. It's with a
Inez
J at the
with a
end. Yeah.
J. Okay. Inez is upset because Kaz is like, or that is his name, right? Kaz is like, we're gonna take this
Hmm.
job. I got 5 hours to figure it out. She's like, dummy, you don't know what to do. And even
Right.
if you know what to do, I can't go. And she shows this tattoo on her wrist, and it signifies that her ownership of the indentured servitude she's under to this other
Hmm.
woman who we meet later. And she's like, okay, so even if you figure it out, that still doesn't solve the fact that I can't go. And he's like, well, then maybe you stay here. And I was like, ouch.
Right.
But also, I was like, but you told her last episode ain't nobody like her. And
Hmm.
she's
Hmm.
special. And now you're like, well, maybe
Warm
you just keep.
feelings.
I was like, but now it's like, oh, maybe I'll just stay here. And then there was a part of me was like, girl, I know what's in there. You don't want to go in there. Maybe you
Right.
just stay here. Shit. Go die for this white
Take
man.
it.
Right? Um, so Alina is brought to General Kerrigan, who's played by Ben Barnes. This is the first time we get to see his face. And they're at, she thinks she's in trouble or something, and she's more concerned about
Hmm.
Mal. And he's like, what happened on the ship? And she insists that she's just a cartographer. She doesn't know what he's talking about. And then two people on the ship are like, yeah, she's a sun summoner.
Right.
We would absolutely be dead if it wasn't for her. But I do like how one person, was it Zoya, who was like, but we also wouldn't have been in this fucking mess if it wasn't for whoever lit that fucking candle, that lantern, who I suspect might have been a cartographer. Because she shot that side eye so hard. I was like, they know. They know exactly who lit
Yes.
that lantern.
Zoya is intensely shady and petty.
Yes,
So
I could
she's,
tell, and I like it.
yeah.
um, but what? Oh, I had a question too about that. Oh, not a question, a comment that I like. It was fucked up how like they introduced that one Inferni that she was like so bad, the black lady who was
Hmm.
explaining like how things are gonna go, and then there's like that one fucking. This is now like the second time I've watched a show in the past week where I was just like absolutely kill this character. I can't stand them. That girl, I don't know remember her name, but when they got the orders, well, when Alina volunteered, like I'll go, and then the guy was like, no,
Hmm.
all of you will go. And as they're packing up to
Hmm.
go, that girl was like, what did you do? And the one
Yeah.
guy's like, it's not her fault. And you always blaming her. And she goes, because I'm usually right. And I was like, oh, you right this time too. But she's a
She
little
was
bitch.
correct.
She was absolutely right. But she was a little bitch because she said to the Inferni, well, if we can't light fire, what are you here for? And she's like, I'm here for when the dark comes for you. So I was like, oh, she's a badass. But then she died. I was like, damn it.
Yeah.
I didn't like that. But anyway, I
I
was
didn't
rooting for
really
that.
like that part where she starts yelling like "Come at me, you coward" or
Yeah.
whatever. I was like, "That is
Yeah. It's like, I thought
what is that?"
she was doing that. And I thought, oh, okay, she gonna fuck them up. And then nothing, like she literally just died. I was like,
Right.
okay. But before that, that girl that was mouthing off, that little sassy one, I was like, she can die. So when she died, I was okay with it.
Yeah, she had it coming.
She had that coming. Um, so yeah, so he cuts into her arm, and Mal was on the way to stop it because he's like, she is not Grisha. And then all that sun came through, and he was like, okay, I guess she is.
Right.
He's like, all women do is lie.
Right.
I did not know.
But, to his credit, I mean, I think his friends took it a little more personally than he did.
Hmm.
He was just more confused, as to how
True.
that could be
True.
possible.
Because later he's like, she lied, and he's not mad at her, and he's like, dude, we have penises. We're stupid. He's like, dude, have you met women and this shit will do for women? We're dumb.
Right. Right.
um, so Kat, this was and then Pekka threatens. Oh, so yes, so she's a sun summoner. Like he cuts into her arm in this, and she just looks so. She's really pretty too, by the way. Like
She
this
is
scene,
so
the look
pretty.
on her face, and like yeah, and the way she portrayed this, like I definitely think you're right in that we're supposed to get that she probably knew deep down. And this is why she stopped being
Yeah.
tested, or, stopped herself from being
Right.
tested.
It was
Um,
it was an instinctual thing.
hmm
One thing
hmm
that I did miss about that scene is one of the effects that they describe in the books is that whenever he calls the darkness, it's like a thunderclap. And I
Ooh,
don't know if they thought that was like cheesy or something, but they do kind of like have the shadows crawl in, to the
yeah,
room.
yeah, that's yeah.
Um, but you're kind of missing that sound effect. I wish that was there, but I thought it was pretty good as far as calling
hmm
the darkness to him.
Um, and then Pekka threatens Kaz. Like this was so interesting because, and again, I watched the first episode twice. I only watched this one once, like shortly before we did this,
Hmm.
so I haven't had a lot of time to kind of think about the stuff in this episode. But I do remember like when this was happening, and I still wasn't quite sure like what Kaz was and what like type of power he had. Um,
Hmm.
like I'm watching this and I'm like, why won't he just kill him? Like
Yeah,
what he did with the other guy, because with the other guy, the way
right,
the scene ended, he was like, I can either take your shit and pay you 10% of the profits after I take your shit, or I can kill you. And I just thought, oh, he's just going to take this guy's shit because why would you die for this, But
right.
then when you come back, they're cleaning up the blood off the floor and he's sitting behind the desk. Like, this is my office now. So I'm like, okay, why wouldn't he do the same with Kaz? Like, you
Hmm.
don't know what the job is. He took the job you wanted. You know that the other guy ain't going to care. Like, if he showed up and was like, Kaz gave me the job, whether however it came about, I don't think Dreesen would care. He'd be like, all right, whatever. How you get me through
Right.
the full. So it's just weird to me that he was just like, I don't know. I don't know. This was
Yeah.
weird. It was a threat, but like he just so yeah, I don't know what we're supposed to think of
Right.
this. Because we didn't see him
Yeah.
again in the episode, did we? Pekka.
No, we didn't. And it's funny as far as like the casting for Pekka went. I think everybody who maybe read the books had somebody else in mind. You think maybe he's like older or
Ah,
whatever. And then when he shows up, he's like an Irish gangster, like a
hmm
gangster
yes,
gangster. Like
yes.
people that's just a comment that I've seen so much like in the Grishaverse groups and stuff are like,
hmm
oh, this guy's a gangster,
yeah, like, and
like
so he's not
he's
that.
scary.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's not like that in the books. He's not that because yeah, they
Yeah, it just
definitely. I
seems
mean,
like he's
he's.
been around so much longer, so
Mm,
you kind of picture like an old guy, like an old
ah,
lion who's
gotcha.
almost ready for pickings,
Right, right, right.
but this
Hmm
guy is more threatening
Yeah,
than
absolutely,
that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Um,
So I think the impression that maybe we're supposed to get is that the other guy had more assets. So, and like Pekka could maybe easily move in on his territory, but the Crow's territory, um, who are called the Dregs in the book, but
mhm.
the Crow Club is like quite quite a distance from Pekka's territory.
Okay.
So it kind of like there's such small beans compared to him that he's kind of like not, he doesn't really bother,
Okay. Okay.
with them
And that was the
necessarily.
other thing too, because I was like, if this is like his place, I was like, that would be pretty bold, like because later I see Kaz like has men like that work for him, like Again, I wasn't really
Right.
sure until this episode, like when he goes into the bar after this, after he's threatening, he goes into the bar and he's like looking around and he's like giving orders. I'm like, oh shit, this is his place. I somehow missed that in the first episode, I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
Right. Like right now, all he has is that one place and those handful of guys,
Got it. Okay. So he calls out this woman who's there gambling and it cuz and if you don't know what's going on like I did in the first time, right? Like
Hmm.
I'm thinking, "Oh, she's cheating," right? Cuz you see her
Right.
counting money in her hand and she's like taps the money with a finger or something. So I'm like, "Oh, he's figuring out that she's cheating." And he calls her into the office. He has her brought into the office by one of his guys, and it turns out she's like, "I'm not cheating." Like she's basically card counting, it sounds like.
Right.
But what
Right.
he noticed was that the way, like, he gives her a stack of money to count out. He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna let you go do this. Here's your incentive. Count it for me." And she picks up the money and she starts counting it. And he calls her out because apparently, where she says she's from, people count their money with two hands. I'm assuming like how we count money. Like when you hold it in
Hmm.
one hand and then at the money that you've counted, you move it to your next hand, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. But she was counting it all, holding it all in one hand. Now, I gotta tell you, I absolutely love this little detail. I
Yeah.
don't know where the fuck this came from. I don't know if this is
Right.
like a thing in real life, but it
Right.
it made all the sense in the world to me when I thought back to like her doing it on the floor, in the casino, and then
Yes.
I was like, "Oh, that's really 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 smart." And I don't know if that's
Yeah.
drawn from like real world stuff. Like for instance, I've been preparing for my trip to Korea, and there's like this video I watched the other day. It was like 10 things you should not do as a foreigner in Korea. And one of them was like always try to accept or give things with both hands. Like when you're
Hmm.
shopping, and I was like, really? Because that's like here, if you're shopping, you just hand over your credit card or your cash with one hand. And they're like in Korea,
Hmm.
you're supposed to try. And as if you think you have a hard time remembering to do that, try like if you're right-handed, try just putting your left hand out and resting your right hand in the palm of your left hand and extending them both. Like that's how you're supposed to
Mm.
take and receive stuff. So when I saw this, I was like, oh, I wonder if that's a thing. Like I'm gonna find out. Oh yeah, in certain areas of the world they count money differently. But is
Hmm.
this a detail from the book? Because I don't know. I just really like this. I thought this was smart.
Yeah, this they haven't, not as much as as far as I've gotten into the
Oh right,
duology,
I
or
forget
maybe
that's a
it's a
different
trilogy
book.
right now.
Hmm.
But because this is a prequel, this is kind of like this is a
Got it.
made up adventure.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but yeah,
But
he. Go ahead.
I will say that it is um kind of accurate to Kaz's character, where he notices so many tiny
Yes,
things,
I was
and
gonna.
is able to put those details together.
Yes, I was gonna say that I like that watching the way he like looked around the casino, and I felt it too because again, when she's like, um, at the end of the episode, he's like, "You have till sunrise," and then at the beginning of this episode, she's like, "We have 6 hours or 5 hours or whatever it is." So you feel it, So when he's standing there, I'm like, "What the
Hmm.
fuck are you gonna do?" Like, and
Right.
so he's like looking around the bar, and I'm like, "Ain't nothing here gonna help you." And then, damn if he don't happen to notice this random fucking thing. I don't know. I just thought this was cute. It may be
Yes,
convenient, but I thought
yes.
it was cute. So yeah,
Yeah.
so he calls her out from not being from West Ravka, right?
Hmm.
Because one, the way she counts the money, he's like, also people from there, they just say Ravka. They don't say West
Right.
Ravka.
Right. Right.
So,
It's just Ravka.
and I
Like,
want
if
to
you're
make
from
sure,
here, it's not the West.
and I want to make sure I have this like in my head where everyone is. So,
Hmm.
Mal and Alina and Kerrigan, they're all on the east of the fold, right? Or no?
They're in Ravka, so they're in the West.
They're in the west. Okay, you
Or
know what?
well,
Good.
yeah.
So, but
I,
no, but
that's a good question.
the whole stretch is called Ravka, right? It's just whether you're whatever
Right.
side of the fold that you're on. So they're on the
Yeah.
west. Okay, in my head, for some reason, I think I was picturing the east side.
Yeah,
And
you
so,
know what? I don't know. I guess it would be the East side.
okay, so but either way, they're on
Yeah.
opposite sides right now, right?
Yes.
And
Right.
so the woman that he's talking to is trying to say she's from where they are. So she doesn't have to say
Hmm.
she came through the fold, right?
Right. Right.
So then that means that they're probably in the West. Because I have in my notes, he calls
Yes.
her out.
Yes.
He calls out a gambler for not being from West Ravka because of how she
Right.
counts money. Okay.
Right.
So they're on the West, and then Alina and them are on the East,
Hmm.
we think. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we learn through her that there's a man called the conductor who
Hmm.
smuggles people through, and her only lead to him is a stage performer that the conductor dropped or had her and her child dropped off with to stay for a few days after he smuggled them through the fold. They had to stay with this person named Poppy for a couple of days who works at the Emerald Palace, and of course the Emerald Palace is either owned by or in Pekka's territory.
Yep.
Soon as she said the Emerald Palace, I was like, "Oh damn!" I have a feeling Cash should not be taking his ass over there. Um, Now this was like so out of nowhere, and at first I wasn't sure if I liked it.
Hmm.
Inej has to kill a man tonight because she
Yeah.
goes to her owner, I guess, the woman who owns her contract or whatever, and wants out, like asks if she could go. I think like she's just trying to, I guess. Oh no, she's summoned. That's right. Someone
Right.
hands her. That's right. She's summoned, and she goes to see her, and the woman says, "If you kill this man tonight at this address, no questions asked. Like you go kill this man, I will release
Hmm.
you to,
Right.
you'll be free." And then
Yeah.
so Inej goes to. At first, I didn't like this because it's like I don't like this side mission. And honestly, the one thing I thought was if Inej goes and she does this, like we don't know who it is, like if she kills this person, and then next thing you know, whenever he figures out what he figures out, and he's like, okay, it's time to go across the fold, and it turns out she can go, like that woman does release her, so we know that she did what she asked. I was like, this will only be cool if that guy's death comes back to haunt them later, if that makes
Right.
sense. Like I was like,
Yeah.
otherwise, I don't like this little side adventure, but it actually did pay off really cool. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and I don't like this woman.
She's terrible, but I think she's doing a great
She
job,
is though.
you know.
Yeah, she's acting the fuck. Cause I was just like, ooh, I don't like her. She's like, so go drive a knife through his heart, please. And I'm like, you're the
Right.
worst. You're terrible. Just let her out of her
Yeah, and
cell
she
phone
knows.
contract.
Yeah, she knows that Inez doesn't kill because of her
Her
religion.
religion,
And
yes.
yeah, so she's doing this on purpose. And, you know, the story of her indentures that serve at the pleasure palace, you know, is that they are pretty much sex slaves because
Ah,
she never lets them out of, they never are able to buy.
their
So the
freedom.
fact that Inej is about to purchase out of her contract
Is a
is,
problem.
you know,
Yeah.
really galling to this
Hmm.
woman. Yeah.
Okay. So she goes to Jesper for help. And I like this because this is like a few times we've seen her power, I guess, or her skill.
Hmm.
Like the first time we met her, she just like quietly appeared in Cass's room. And here she
Yeah.
just like appears out of the shadows. And then like he turns when Cass calls his name and he looks back, she's gone. She's like Batman.
Yeah. Right. He's like, how did you keep doing
Uh
that?
huh.
It's so
But she,
good. She's like her nickname is the Wraith,
ah,
and so it's funny because, you know, like even when she tries, it's such a great characteristic because even when she's not trying to sneak, she's like doesn't know how not to sneak, you know.
I love it. Now, wait, did you say Wraith or Wraith?
Wraith.
W
Yep.
R A
With
I T H?
yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
Because I was like, what was the girl's name in Game of Thrones when Arya got blind?
The waif.
Waif. There you go. Okay. I was
Yes.
like, okay, got it. Okay, yes, I could not remember. All right. So yeah, she asked Jasper. She was like, just straight up, like how I would be like, hey, can you record a podcast with me? She's like, hey, can you go kill a guy for me? He was like, okay.
Right. Okay, but why? But I
Right.
mean, it doesn't matter. But
Right.
why?
But
Yeah.
why? He's like, of course I'll do it. Like, I was like,
Right.
what the fuck? So she disappears when what's his name pops up. Cass pops up. Oh, and then here is the part I really liked. When Alina is being taken to for her own protection, right? To
Hmm.
the little palace is what they call it. She has to go
Yeah.
in this coach with these guards, and these are the guys in the red coats, right? That you
Right.
said are Corporal K? Corporal
Hmm.
um
Corporalki.
Corporalki. I'm never gonna remember that. I'm
I
gonna
know.
try my
It,
best. Sorry. Just you got like what, 3 more podcasts of me butchering these words. I'm sorry. Sorry guys. Um but they're with her, and I like these guys because at first
yeah.
when he was like get in, and she was like she was getting on my nerves a little bit.
She's so nice. Yes.
I
And that
was like,
is
girl,
a
sun
that is
just
a
came.
characteristic of her. Yeah.
Yeah, I hate that they got to write young girls like this. But I'm like, the
Yeah.
sun just came out of your arm, heifer. Like, people ain't just going to
Right.
listen to you and do what like, there's consequence. There's a war, girl.
Yeah.
Get your ass in the carriage. But,
Right.
but then, like, when they're in there, the other guy, he was so, like, in awe of her. And
Yes.
like, you know, and you get like what it is she can do or what she represents. Like you get that she doesn't, or she does, but she doesn't give a shit. But like she means something to these people. And I
Yeah.
felt a little bit better with her being with them. But I do like that she was like, how is it not safer? Like I can't remember. Like she had said, like to try. Oh, because she wanted Malin with her. Like, why not have
Hmm.
everybody protect me? And he was like, "This is safer, even though it's slower." But then they get
Yeah.
ambushed,
Right.
and I know she was like, "I told you."
Right.
This was terrifying.
Yeah.
So, what were those people doing? Because they did. They don't. They're not. They're not little science people, right? Or small science. What's it called?
Right. So, yeah, the small science. So these are the Druskella, and they are from Fjerda, who are the Northerners,
Okay.
and they are witch hunters. So they
Okay.
believe that people who use the small science, which of course, I mean, it's like, in terms of the X-Men, it's
Mm-hmm.
like you're born with these abilities. They view them as being unnatural.
Got it.
So they, hunt witches and take them to trial. And obviously, no one ever survives.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, they view this as a religious duty, you know.
Ah, okay,
So
got it.
they are, yeah, but they're like crazy good at their
I
jobs,
was just gonna say because like it was a little. I need to rewatch this episode again. Only saw it once, but like it
Yeah.
was. I was trying to like figure out like the mechanics of what was happening to them, and I could definitely see
Hmm.
the people with Alina, the Grisha, were using their specific, um, skills to fight
Hmm.
back. But it felt like at one point, one of the in the blue coats. Are those the
Hmm.
squallers? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hmm.
but the one in the blue coat like was like had his or her his or her back pressed against a tree, and then it felt like something just like out of the wind grabbed it and threw it, and I was like, who the fuck did that? They got magic too, like so I'm gonna
Right.
have to go back and watch it, and then I know they had like smoke bombs. I was like, where they get those?
Yes.
Say the little smoke
Right.
grenades. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
I think that's kind of like the problem is like, isn't this the thing on all of I don't make any sense right now. It's like all these magical
Hmm.
events, shows, novels, whatever. It's kind of like at the end of magic,
Hmm.
you're kind of like coming up against the Industrial Revolution.
Right.
So, you've got the like smoke bombs and things like that to the north, and then
Hmm.
the people in the south are developing machine guns,
Right, because he says that
so
later, right? I don't
right.
remember his name,
Hmm.
but the white haired, the general guy, their
Yeah.
boss, he says
Yeah.
later, they used to say that one Grisha was worth 50 soldiers.
Exactly.
Then they got guns. The other side got guns. And then they were like, worth.
Right.
He goes, so how long before they're just as worthless as us? And I like
Yeah.
that because that was like
Hmm.
talking about something bigger than both of them. Like the people with
Hmm.
clearly the power that decides who goes to war and all of that. That eventually they don't really give a fuck about any of us. I like
Right.
that. But yeah, here before they're attacked, I do like the one guy said maybe if Grisha destroys the wall, they won't need high walls and excuse me, destroys the foal.
Yeah.
They won't need those high walls anymore. So,
He is my favorite Grisha of the series.
oh, good, good.
These two, Ivan and Fedor, and Ivan is the harsher guy, and
Yeah.
Fedor is and they're a couple. And
Oh, they are.
yeah, yeah,
They're my
they're
favorites. Okay, because
they're
listen,
so cute.
I
Yeah.
wasn't sure, like, when he, like, it looked like he was asking Ivan for permission to speak to her that first time when they were still in
Hmm.
the carriage. And I thought at first, like, he liked her, because she's pretty. But then
Right.
it did. So at first I thought, oh, he's, like, crushing on her. And I get it. But then it felt like, oh, because of what she is, and that they're
Yeah.
Grisha and that they would, kind of look up to her, whatever, or think this is exciting, right? Because it's kind of like, again, finding the avatar. Like, if you're thinking that
Yeah.
all you need are these types of magic wielders or people with a certain power to end, wars, of course they're going to be excited that they found a sun summoner. But, okay, but there are a couple I like it even better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They're a great pair, you know.
Awesome.
So I really love those guys.
Oh, look at me. I have here. I wrote Druskelle. I don't know what that is, but that's the
Yeah,
people, the Fred
that's the
from
witch
the
hunters.
witch
Hmm.
hunters. I'm just so proud of myself that I actually wrote something somewhat right.
Yeah.
So I put they kill and cuz so then when he shows up cuz she's about to get killed, uh
Hmm.
the thing turns around and sees Kerrigan walking up and he calls him a darkling. And that's the first time anybody
Yes.
has said that, right? Like in the show. I don't
I
think I've
think
heard.
somebody maybe mentioned it,
Okay.
like one of the, one of the army guys or whatever.
Okay. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, probably
And
that makes
that
sense.
is a huge difference because in the books, no one actually knows his name. They
Ah.
and so, this is a big moment like later on in the books where he tells her what his real name is.
Ah, okay,
And
got
that's
it.
kind of like between them. So everyone calls him the Darkling.
Ah,
So,
got it.
yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely need to watch this episode again because I wasn't even entirely sure like what he did here, other than he like filleted that, like he diced that man
Yeah.
up.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
what
that I
was that?
love
Like,
the
what
effect
was
as he's like,
this? The shadow? Is that what that is?
right.
Okay.
Yeah, like I love as he's like riding in, in
Hmm.
slow motion and the shadows are following him.
Yes.
That was such a great effect. And then he like gathers the energy,
Hmm.
and then it was an interesting effect. I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but he just kind of like splits matter pretty much.
Ah, okay. Okay. I'm gonna have to go back and like really watch what he, because I just know that like he wasn't close to him at all. And then
Right.
you hear like a slicing sound and the blood sprays across her face and her mouth was open. I was like, see, that's how you get hepatitis. That's
Right.
exactly how
That was that was just nasty.
that
That
was
guy,
just,
and
mm.
he's all like dirty
I
and
know. Yeah. And then she kept her mouth open for a real long time. I'd have been licking my clothes. I'd have been like,
dirt in there. I don't know.
oh God. Do you watch Invincible on Amazon Prime? It's animated.
No,
I don't know if you're into it's girl. It's a lot. I think you would like it though. It's a lot though.
I've been enjoying the memes.
Yeah, I saw. Oh yeah, because you did comment on the one that's like me waiting for the finale.
Yes,
He was floating in the sky with Omni Man's suit on. Oh my god. Yeah,
so
we're
good.
covering that on the premium show. If you guys have not yet, the finale dropped last night. It's a lot. There's a joke. I can't make it because you haven't seen it, but no super rush. It was renewed for 2 or 3 seasons, so it's definitely something that if you decide to get into it, it'll be a
Oh,
fun
good.
binge because you'll have like a lot. But yeah, it's super
Hmm.
super graphic. Don't watch it with your kid in the room.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we learn after this that only summoners can do the cut. I think he called it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And Alina wants no part of any of this shit. And I was like, girl, you are starting to get on my nerves. 'Cause I
Yeah,
mean, I don't know. Am I wrong? It's just when she was like, I don't want to do any of this. And it just kind of felt like,
it
I
was
don't know.
whiny.
Yeah, I was like, girl, grow up. Like the world is at war. These people are, are discriminate against you and treat you like shit. Like you almost died. Like people you cared about died. You watched all these people die. Like this man you're in love with, this boy you're in love with almost died. You just found this out. Like people are trying to like girl, ask some questions and like be
Right.
do something instead of just like
Right.
I don't want this and I just want to get to Mal. Like I really want her to snap out of that pretty soon.
Yeah. Like,
That's all I'll
please
say.
stop it. Yeah.
Yeah, like they're
Like,
telling
I
you.
understand, but I don't
Yeah,
understand.
but also I don't understand. Like,
Right.
like they're trying to take you to safety and you're banging on the back of the carriage. I didn't know Mal, and I get it, but like also stop. Send him a letter.
Right.
Write him, be like, let me tell you about the bathtubs and this motherfucker. Because listen,
Right.
when they dropped her ass off at the Little Palace, or he did, and he was like, take her to the so and so suite, and she goes in the room and closes the door, she starts sobbing. The way that was cut, I thought she saw something in the room
Yeah.
that. And so I was like, what is it? Like, can you please show us what is it? Her parents? What the fuck is happening? was everything catching up to her, which I liked
Yeah.
because again, it felt
Yeah.
like she hadn't really processed anything except to be a brat. So I did like this
Right.
breakdown, but then when she went looking through in the song, I was like, "Girl, take your ass a bath, put on some nice clothes, and worry about this shit later."
Please. Right. Oh my God. And I mean, I know that, like in the books, they like just keep putting her on new horses because it's just this desperate, it's a desperate run for the little palace
Right.
that lasts like nearly a week because if anyone, including people on their side, catch up to them, this
Yeah.
is their one chance,
Right.
to
Right.
destroy the fold. So, she just is like, you know, reeking of horse,
Yeah. When you hear
and just
the only thing they gave us here was my tailbone hurts.
right. Like one time. And I mean, I am not a horsewoman, and mad props to those of you who are, but like the one time that I spent several hours riding a horse, I mean,
Yeah.
that tailbone pain
Yeah.
doesn't go away
Yeah.
because you stand for 5 minutes and get back on a horse.
Mm-mm. You need an Epsom salt bath and you need to lay down for like
Oh
2 weeks.
God. Like, yes.
And I
Yes,
thought
with an
about,
ice pack.
and then that is kind of where we are too. I'm glad you brought that up. Like, we
Mhm.
talked about like the smoke grenades and like even her seeing this house. 'Cause it's always hard for me, like somebody who's not very good with like history and time periods and geography. That's just not my
Mhm.
jam. You guys, if you've been listening to this podcast for years, you know that I once thought Alaska was an island. So I'm not good at this shit, okay? And so I'm sitting here like, oh, I thought that was pretty interesting when he said they used to be considered, very valuable until the other side got guns. Like,
Right.
and I can't remember. Did he say like machine guns? Like he said something, and then I'm like looking
Yeah.
at the plumbing and the stuff like this within the house, and even thinking back to like the orphanage she grew up in. It was weird
Hmm.
because like outside of that, when you're just watching them around their like military tents and stuff, this does feel very, or when they're on the horses, it feels very Game of Thrones. But then it's like, well,
Right.
no, there's some technology in a way, if that's probably
Yeah.
not the right word, but yeah,
It's
so it's
kind
just
of
really
like,
interesting where they're
around
meeting.
World War it. Like if you look at it like World War One-ish,
Got it. Okay.
where it's
Okay.
kind of like we still have horses, but also machine guns.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, oh, and I love when he says to her, "You are Grisha. You are not alone." I was like, "Girl, these your people."
Yeah.
But
Right.
it's weird though because I can see her feeling some kind of way because her mother's people are also her people, and they're
Yeah.
at war. Like, and now she's being
Right. I
told
mean,
she's
she's never
this.
really had a people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So this has got to be like Mal is pretty much her people. So I mean, I get that. I
Right.
don't want look before y'all write feedback for next week and be like I was too tough on her. Look, all
I
I'm saying,
totally understood,
yeah,
and
I
I feel the same way.
understand. I understand. I just like girl. Just let's just a little
Just
less.
stop.
Yeah, just a little less whining. At one point, I want you to sit down and acknowledge the situation and decide to do something about it instead of just being like,
Yeah.
I just want to see Mal. Like, girl, you are a sun
Right.
summoner. Process that, okay? Um,
Right.
so Cass uses Jesper to see Poppy, and this is how we see what Jesper, like part of his skill is he's like a really good shot, like a fast
Hmm.
sharpshooter. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, and Cass goes in to see Poppy, who is, it looks like a drag performer, maybe. I'm not sure if that's the proper,
I assumed. Yeah.
yeah. Who tells him that, he figures out that it's like a setup, right? Like
Right.
that Mal is, oh, excuse me, Inej is being set up
Hmm.
to kill the person that would
Yeah.
help Kaz get this job with reason, like
Right.
get the conductor person. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, then I cared because at first, remember, I was like, I don't like this little side mission she's giving
Hmm.
Inej, but yeah, okay.
Hmm.
So, Mal's boss, who's Mal's boss? Oh, okay, we already talked about this. He won't go after
Hmm.
Alina. Okay, I have a question. Here's from who the fuck is the king? Because he was like, even if the king himself told me something, and I'm like, who's the king? And I did not
Right.
believe that I had not asked yet 2 episodes. who's running this bitch? Like, what kind of rule do they live
Right.
under? They have a king, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, sorry, who was the family, that was shot and they all were put in the,
Oh,
you know,
Anastasia's family, the Russian.
right,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So it's kind of like this guy is nearly the last king. So there's a king and the queen at the little palace,
Hmm.
and I mean they have power, but then the Grisha, answer to them. But of course, there's that kind of like balance thing where like the
Hmm.
king is intimidated by the Grisha, but he
Right.
also thinks he owns the Grisha and whatever. So
Okay. Okay.
we just
Um,
haven't met him yet.
got it. Okay. So that, in my notes, who the fuck is the king? Um, And then Grisha worth 50 soldiers. One day they'll be useless too. I really like that. Inez was tricked, and it turns out. So she attacks this man in his apartment that the woman sent her to kill, and it turns out she just assumes he's like into human trafficking, like a sex trafficker,
Right,
right? Like getting. This is
right.
how her boss gets people, like how she got her, and
Yeah.
he's tell her, no, 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 I'm not human. I smuggle people. I smuggle people, families fleeing the war, and
Hmm.
and then he tries to appeal to her religion because he practices the same faith. And she's about to. Now, was she going to kill him? Because it looked like it.
I think so.
Wow.
She had herself worked up into the idea that, he's smuggling people, he's probably separating them and trafficking them afterwards,
So she was
and she's still
justifying
hung
what
up
she was
about her
about to do.
brother. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, yes. And thank you for mentioning that because I don't think I wrote that down. We learned that she was separated from her brother, like he was. They're 2 years apart. One was 12, one was 14, but
Yeah.
I don't remember. Okay. And then, but Cash shows up and stops her and tells her, like, this was a setup. Like, this is
Yeah.
who we need to get through the fold. Because, now this is cool because we learn from the woman, the gambler who was counting the money, that when
Hmm.
she was smuggled over, he has like a contraption.
Hmm.
I want to see what the fuck that is because I'm picturing
Yeah.
like that. Oh man, did you watch Watchmen? That owl
Yeah.
thing. That I'm
Uh-huh.
picturing like that, like a circular, like a
Yeah.
flying fucking Pokemon ball. Like they're
Right.
just that just
I'm pretty sure
hovers
it's
over
just
the
called the
sand.
owl ship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the owl ship. I cannot wait to see what the fuck this is that he's smuggling people in. But so
Yeah.
I'm guessing now, and I mean you don't have to tell me, but this is just a assumption on my part. Um, because he says you have to get us to the little palace. So is the Kaz crew going to be Kaz, Jesper, Inez, and this guy? Is he like
Hmm.
supposed to go with them? Okay.
Yeah.
And oh wait, and is that his name? Dreesen? Is he sending
Dreesen.
anybody with them, or is he going too? Because he was like, my ship sails in the morning, and I'm like,
No, he's going back to where he's from, which is that island out in the. I
ah,
think
okay,
he's from Kerch or
Kirch.
whatever.
Okay, gotcha. So he's going home. He's like, y'all. He's not risk. This is not his own. He's not risking his own life to do this. He
Right.
wants to send them in there to
He
get
just
the
wants to
Sun
finance
Summoner.
it. Yeah.
Right. Okay, gotcha. Because he was like, my ship leaves in the morning, and I'm like, wow. So you just want them to like be kind of like, did you see? I'm just going to be so stupid because I know you have Jaws.
Of course. Yeah.
Okay, I've seen it. Well, listen, I'm 46. I saw it for the first time earlier this year because of one of my classes. So, I mean, it's one of those
It's
things
one of
like,
Adam's favorite movies.
it's a
Was on over here
great
like a million
movie.
times. Michael has seen it. My son.
Yeah, it's a great movie, and it's one of those
Yeah.
things where, like, you get to a point with pop culture, and I'm, because we're around like in the same age range, so I'm sure you get this. But like,
Hmm.
where it's like you think you know things because they're so much a part of the fabric of pop culture. So you've heard like,
Right.
I mean, we're gonna need a bigger boat, like all you. So you feel like you've seen things that you maybe haven't seen, or I watched when I was really young and wasn't really like processing the way I watch TV now. So I watched it for a
Right.
class, but it kind of reminds me of that captain where it's like you're paying me to guide you to go catch this thing. Like I'm not going out there to do it for you. So that's what I thought.
Right.
I thought it was going to be like I'm paying y'all to protect me. Like how rich white Republicans pay people to like go out with them to hunt elephants and shit.
Yes.
Like that's what I thought. But no, he's going to go home sit
Hmm.
on the couch while they go through the
Right.
fold for him. Okay. And why
Hmm.
does he want her? Like, who is he exactly? I mean, I
He
understand why
he
she's
hasn't really
valuable, but
said,
okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
And now because this the book, like you said, this is like a separate, like almost like a prequel type thing for
right.
this crew. So in the
Hmm.
book though, this isn't the mission, or is it? It
Right.
is okay
Yeah,
because
it's
it's different.
there's a totally separate
Got it.
mission, but
Okay.
I think the implication um, is that because her existence would inevitably lead to the destruction of the fold,
Hmm.
there all these businesses exist because of the fold. So a
Ah.
lot of people have money, like they if Ravka expands back to its original size and now the king is the king of West Ravka, as well as East Ravka,
Hmm.
et cetera, now all these people can't
Ah. Okay.
operate their own little fiefdoms.
So, like, it kind of also reminds me of what we were talking about with Winter Soldier, excuse me, Winter Falcon,
Yes.
the Falcon and Winter Soldier, where it makes sense why if you have someone like the Power Broker, who, if you're behind or if you haven't watched it, I won't say who the character ends up being, but you have somebody who is, in charge of like, or not in charge of, but doing really well controlling pockets of like the black market and all this illegal stuff. If you have an organization like the GRC saying, yeah, we want to put back borders and rules and stuff like that. Like if your power is dependent upon this world being fucked up or this fold existing, I could see where you're just like, yeah, no, I like it the way it is. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Especially if you're paying people to go through it whenever you need to get through it. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you don't ever take your ass in it. Okay.
Hmm.
So then I have in my note, Mal steals a horse with a question mark. Cause I was like, and then I said, like, Jon Snow thinking he's going to go help Rob. That's exactly what I have in my notes. Cause I was like, where the fuck
Right.
you think you going? You just can't.
And
This
then
is
and
called
then
going
what? Yes.
AWOL. Yeah. It's like, they will throw your ass in prison. You can't
And
just leave
I
the
love
military.
his friends stepping in,
Yes.
and they had the greatest argument. I was like so proud of them,
Yes.
because even though they seem like dummies,
Mhm.
where they could
Mhm.
just give some stupid reason like, "Are you crazy? You're going to get yourself killed," and then he'll like rethink it.
Mhm.
They literally lay out exactly what's going to happen, when and why, and
Mhm.
how he needs to go about it, and that was great.
I love it. I wish they would write more characters like this.
Yeah,
um, and then Kaz ends up using his club as collateral for Inez.
yeah.
Inej.
Hmm.
I'm gonna fuck that up all season. Um,
Yeah, that's huge
that is super.
because
Like, go ahead.
I think because you're starting to get the vibe that, like you said earlier, that there's more behind
Mhm.
his desperate need to
Mhm.
get this job, so he can somehow best Pekka Rollins. So the fact that he's willing to put his club on the line
Mhm.
to take Inez, and eventually buy out her contract is huge.
And I'm assuming like um we have not seen. Oh, we don't have feedback. I've like so many shows. Oh, I think it's the Nevers where I saw more feedback. And also starting this week, I'm gonna start tweeting and posting on Facebook um the um feedback posts so that you guys are aware of them. They are the Patreon folks know this more. For now on, all the feedback posts are on Patreon and they're not behind a paywall. So whether it's a free podcast or not, you can access the feedback post for all the shows that we cover, and it's one post per show per season. So you go to the same post to leave your feedback for every episode or every block of episodes that we're recording. So you check the schedule, see which episodes we're going to be talking about, and get your feedback in before that day for those episodes. So people typically will leave a feedback that just says, hey, this is about episodes 3 and 4. So I know to read it when we're talking about those episodes and not spoil myself. That's worked really well for us for shows like this. that are dropped all at once. Because seriously, I would have straight finished this by now if we weren't
Yeah.
podcasting, which is a
I
good
mean, I
thing because I
watched it in
like
one
it.
day, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, just like it'll be done. So, okay, so there's no feedback, but is there any? Wait, there was one other thing. I had a question, but first, let me ask you: did you everything in your notes? Did you talk about what you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I think so. I think that there is a little bit of a difference in their relationship, like Alina and Mal, from the books that will be important to readers in
Mm-hmm.
that they're younger in the books.
Mm.
So I think she's like 17 and in the show they're playing it more like they're 20.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you would expect a little more from 20-year-olds not being completely clueless about the fact that they like each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But, it's more of a childhood friendship that's kind of on the cusp of like
Like,
neither one of them really realize what they have for each other, so
got it.
it's and but Mal is like, even though she's never really been with anybody else, and has just kind of been this little freakish little girl
Mm-hmm.
with weirdness, it's because she's been suppressing her powers. So she's like a sickly person and,
Ah,
unknowingly. So, she's just been a little a waif,
right, right.
and he's been out there. He's more of like a lady killer in the book,
Yeah,
like
because that
when he,
Zoya was like,
yeah,
"Hey, let's fuck," and he was like, "I
right.
just know, I just want these grapes
Right.
for
But
my
in the
friend."
books, he does fuck her.
Ah, okay.
So,
That's what
yeah,
I figured.
right.
That does
But
not
that's kind
surprise
of
me.
the big difference there. Yeah.
So I'm
But
looking.
besides that, I really liked it.
Yeah, this I'm looking through the before we go, I wanted to look through really quickly the actors, and I purposely didn't do this while I
Hmm.
was watching because I wanted to talk to you about who these people are. So it's weird because I really expected that I'm gonna look up the actress who plays Inez and I'm gonna be like, "Yep, I knew it." Nope, I don't know her. She looks so familiar. I mean, she was on one episode of
Yeah.
Doctor Who, Demons on
Hmm.
the Punjab. Was she? Um, I don't remember who she was. I'm trying to like there was some story about I don't remember her name, but one of the new companions, right? She's Indian
Hmm.
and she's a police
Right.
officer, right? And it wasn't a
Yeah.
story about like her grandmother in the past or something, like not wanting to marry someone or
Yes. Hmm.
okay. I'm assuming that's the episode, but I don't remember who she
Oh,
played in it.
yes. So she must have been the girl in the past.
Right, that's what I'm wondering. Was she the grandmother in the
Yeah,
past? Yeah, because I
I
couldn't
think
remember, or if
so.
like, because I feel like there was also, like with Doctor Who, like we get the new companions and then they
Right.
go on these adventures, and then like an episode or two later, they end up having to go back home, and that's when we get to see like their home life. I felt like
Hmm.
kind of how we met Martha's sister and her parents. Like I thought we might have met her parents briefly
Hmm.
before she went back out
Yes.
with the doctor, but so maybe, but
Yes.
I figured like if that was the case, if she was like a sister, she'd have been in more than one episode. The fact that she was just in this one episode, I'm wondering if she played the grandmother.
I think so. That makes a lot of sense.
Her character's name was Umbreen. Umbreen.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, I haven't seen other than that, and then she was in a TV series called The Outpost, which sounds familiar, but I didn't watch it.
Yeah, I didn't see it either.
Okay, so she's in
She's
that.
very good. Yeah.
And then okay, so Alina. Oh, let me say her name. So she's played by Amita Suman. That's Inej, and then Alina is played by Jessie Miley. Miley.
Hmm.
Jessie Miley. Let's see. What has she been in? I've not seen. Oh my God, these are all well so far fairly new actors.
Yeah. Well, and they're British actors, so even though they're like trained, a lot of them went to acting school and, formal training, like the guy that plays Kaz, Freddie Carter, we haven't seen them like on TV
Ah,
necessarily, but
right.
a
So
lot
their
of them
acting
have been
credits was
like in
probably
the
a lot of
theater. Yeah.
yeah. Oh wow! So Kaz, like you said, Kaz Brecker is the character's name. He's played by Freddie Carter. He was on Pennyworth, which is a show I still can't believe
Hmm.
actually exists. I cannot believe they made an
Yes,
Alfred series.
I know.
Yeah, yeah. And then he played a soldier in Wonder Woman. But again, like you said, there's probably, oh, he's directed some shorts, written
Hmm.
some other. Okay. Um, and let's see who else we got here. Oh, of course, we should do Mal. Archie Renault.
Hmm.
Oh my God, he looks
Renault.
completely different with all that hair.
He does. Yeah.
Wow. Have I seen him in anything?
He
No.
has not hardly done anything. Yeah, he's actually quite a bit younger than most of them. He's like 23.
He has such a baby face though.
He does.
He looks much younger. Okay, who now? Okay, Jesper. I'm gonna be honest here. Wow, he has nothing. Oh no, where he does. He bothers me because I look at him and I see Jesse Smollett.
Oh
He looks like
no.
a Smollett brother, like a sibling. Like, and I always look
Yeah.
at him like, like I feel like I don't know. Uh, I feel like I shouldn't trust him. I feel like he looks too much like Jesse Smollett to me. Um, yeah, I've not seen anything he's been in.
Yeah. I thought
Wow.
the three of them in particular were just dead on as far as the
Oh,
casting.
really? Oh,
Because,
that's good to know.
yeah,
Okay.
Kaz is really supposed to be like that. Like he is a miserable beast, but brilliant, you know?
Okay.
So his smirk and the thing that he did the whole time, he never broke from that. I thought that was great.
Yeah. I haven't seen Zoya in anything either. Who else? Let me look at Ivan and Fedor. Is that his name?
Hmm. Yeah, I
Uh,
most recently saw Fedor, who's Julian Kostov, in Discovery of Witches. He was one of the demons.
you're still watching that?
I love it.
She's like, yes, and what of it? Um, yeah, I have not seen any of this stuff. Okay, Discovery of Witches. Yeah. Wow, he's done a lot though.
He has. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's great. He's Bulgarian.
Why do I feel like there was like another show? I feel like there was a show recently that I think we all watched. And there was like an actor in it that we all kind of like, he had like a small role and we all kind of like fell for him. And where was he from? Was he Russian? I don't know.
Oh
There
yeah.
was like, I feel like we were watching something and we were just like, yeah, we like this guy. He was like, he had like a smaller role in some show we were watching.
Hmm.
So, God, is Ben Barnes like the biggest name in this?
Yes.
Well, in
Yep.
terms of like being
Right.
as closest to a household name as you're gonna get for people
Right.
with resumes that are not this long. Okay, but I like it because again, like I was telling John and Donnie, like I just want some new stuff, and I want new
Yeah.
stuff to like look forward to again. I feel like that's another thing we
Hmm.
lost with COVID. Like in the beginning, it wasn't that bad because we still had our shows that were planning to be released anyway. Now we're getting into the time where I feel like you're seeing the effects of COVID, people, things,
Yeah.
projects not being able to continue during COVID and all of that. And so I don't know. I
Hmm.
just kind of feel like now I want to capture that excitement that we had like when we had Game of Thrones and when Breaking Bad was on and when The Walking Dead was good. Like I just feel like I'm missing that. Maybe you guys are getting it because I'm also not watching as much TV as I used to.
Hmm.
But for me, I just wanted new stuff. So I'm super happy with
Yeah.
this. I love this so far.
Yeah. I think they really went out of their way, to do that, to cast some fresh faces,
Hmm.
so you wouldn't be expecting it. I think
Yeah.
one of the other people that I did recognize is Jinya, who's played by Daisy Head, and she was one of the main characters in Harlots on Hulu.
Oh, I know. That's another show that you guys would talk about in a group a lot that I know a
Hmm.
lot of people liked.
Hmm.
Okay, okay. Um, and which one is she? Which one? What in the show? Which character was she?
She's the tailor that was fixing up her face
Whose face?
when she was at the palace, the girl who came in to help her get
Oh,
dressed and
that's
like her
right.
hair and stuff.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Quickly forgot it like that happened. I just remembered the girl who helped her, and that's also is that a that's not a tailor. What's it the one who healed her? Is that a tailor?
Yeah, they're both like they're related. talents.
Got it.
So
Yeah, they're within the same thing. I
yeah,
knew. Okay. Okay.
right. And I think
Yes.
with the
Go ahead.
casting of Ben Barnes, I think some people maybe complained a little bit about him because they feel like, I don't know, maybe he's not as emo as the Darkling that they were expecting. But
Mm.
I think they're doing something different with the Darkling in this series in
Okay.
making him a little like more real person.
Mm.
So I think that, like I'm sure that Ben could have played it that way if he really wanted to. Like I'm calling him
Hmm.
Ben, like we're best friends, which we are, but in my mind, call me. No. You know, but he's more like a real person, and
Yeah.
eventually we'll get into his backstory for the show
Right.
versus the other thing. But it worked for me. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So.
I don't have anything to compare it to, but so far I'm liking it. The last little cast member I pulled up here actually kind of leads me to the other question I had before we wrap it up. I'm looking at the guy who plays Pekka, Dean
Hmm.
Lennox Kelly, and I was scrolling through
Hmm.
to see if I'd seen him in anything, and I'm pretty sure, like I don't remember it off the top of my head, but I know the character. He played Tully in Being Human.
Okay.
And I'm assuming this is the British one. Yes. And so he was in two episodes of that, and I'm so tempted to go pull those up because I have a vague idea of who he was. But yeah, he's done a lot.
Hmm.
And I figured that, like, just his presence and everything, I was like, yeah, I'm sure this
Yeah.
guy would have been in a bunch of stuff, and
He's
he
very
has.
skilled.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that I recognized him from was Doctor Who as well. He played Shakespeare, in the Shakespeare
Oh
episode.
my God,
Yeah.
he did!
Hmm.
Where he was hitting our Martha!
Yes.
That was him!
Yep. And now, now you can see it when you look at his face.
Yes. Oh, he was handsome as Shakespeare. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
digging this. Okay. Yes, that is him. I've scrolled through that and totally like did not even see Doctor Who there. But it's so funny because it's like whenever I'm looking up actors and stuff and they're British, like most of the time they've all been on Doctor Who at least once.
Right. If they've got any skill,
Right, they've
then
been
pretty
in at
much
least
have.
one Doctor Who episode. Um,
But it can be like really deep in their resume though, so it's hard to
yes, you got to go
find.
digging. All right, so that's it. So I think what we're gonna try to do is do this on Fridays, but I'm open. So and I put that on the schedule and I set it in the group. So just a heads up, you guys, that we are being super flexible with this because Sarah and I both have a lot of stuff going on, and the fact that we both work from home is kind of cool because maybe some days we can record earlier than I typically would when I record with John and Donnie. But for right now, I thought it would be a safe bet to just like put Fridays, so that people know we're doing it. It's two episodes. We're gonna get there, but it may be subject to change because we're busy working women with children,
Yes.
and we're in the middle of a panini. We're still in a panini, folks. Still shit going on. But so this was fun. I'm so happy you're doing this with me, Sarah. This show.
Yeah, I loved it. I had so much fun.
And I'm glad that you like this is, and I knew it. Like, if people were saying it too, like I said, they're like all week, they're like, yeah, I just can't wait, Sarah, to explain this. Because, so when I was taking my notes, I was like, man, I'm so happy it's Sarah because she gonna know this shit. Because I'm sitting there like, who's this? And did she die? Did she blow up? Like all my questions and trying to remember these names and stuff. So I picked the right person to watch this with. So yay.
I'm so glad that we could make it work. Thank you for asking me.
Of course. So, like I said, we're tentatively on the schedule next week for Friday, but that may change depending on if Sarah and I want to do it on Thursday or Wednesday or Saturday. We don't know, but just know that it's coming once a week. We will be talking about these episodes two at a time. So we'll see you next week for episodes 3 and 4. Bye.